How's it going, Luke? Dave from the Post and Courier here. Good to see you again. Thanks for doing this. Looking ahead a little bit, but after this Saturday, how do you approach the summer and the offseason? Not just about working to be the quarterback, but as of right now, the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I think obviously this Saturday is going to be a lot of fun. We've got a big week this week of practice, and we get to go put it all out there on Saturday, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun for us, just to get in front of the home crowd again and go out there and have some fun. But going into the summer, I think with spring ball being a little bit later this year, we've got a lot of different film and a lot of different looks from all the practices that we've had and all the stuff that we've been able to do. So there's definitely a lot of stuff to look at going into that next part of the off season, and with summer workouts and stuff starting. There's a lot of stuff to go back and learn from, and just continue to get better at. We know what that kind of stuff is, and really just excited to continue to get after it.
Mike Yuba?
Hey, Luke, without giving the scheme away, getting into the schematics, as a quarterback, as someone that's playing under this new offense, what do you personally like about what you guys have been able to take away these last couple of weeks in spring ball?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely new for all of us, players, coaches included. Getting in the huddle and being able to break out and get into different kind of sets and give the defense really different looks each and every day. It keeps them on their toes, and it keeps us at an advantage, as far as being able to push the tempo in and out of the huddle, and really just be able to run the ball, push the ball down the field, and just get short, quick passes here and there, and then let the run game open it up, and just little things like that we've been able to take advantage of, as far as, like I said, the tempo coming off in and off, or on and off the field with subbing personnel, breaking the huddle fast and getting into different looks, and really just giving the defense a different picture every single time, and just keeping the game simple for everybody, so we can go out there, play fast, and do what we do. So,
Ben Portnoy?
Luke, just in terms of this spring and going through this competition, and now a couple of weeks into spring and almost at the end of it, just what do you kind of feel like you've learned about yourself through this, and what has kind of your progress been, and what do you feel like you've learned from this whole sort of process?
I definitely think I've learned how to become a better leader. I feel like I've done a really good job at stepping into that role of being the main leader on offense, and one of the main leaders on the team. And I've had a lot of guys come along beside me and really help me in doing that. You know what I mean? So that's been pretty cool. For me personally, just to go out there every single day and know that I've got a bunch of guys around me that are on the same mission, and it's just an honor for me to be able to be out there with them, and really just leading them in the right direction, and just leading by example. I think I've learned a lot about just playing the quarterback position. Obviously, last spring was a little different because of COVID. Got 5 practices in, and then quarantine happened, and wasn't able to go all through the spring there. Didn't have a spring game or anything like that. So this spring has definitely been huge. As far as playing the quarterback position. Obviously, I got thrown into it last season at the very end of the year, which I'm so grateful for. That taught me a lot then, and it's sure slowing things down now. So it's definitely been a lot of fun. Obviously, there's still a lot to work on, but I'm really excited for what's to come.
When you talk about being a leader and taking that step, is there anything kind of specific that you point to, or an example, like what kind of goes into that in terms of what you've done or anything like that?
I think it's just bringing positive energy and a little bit of juice to practice every single day, and that you can tell it's contagious. I think in the last offensive team meeting that we had, that was a big point of emphasis, is being on the sidelines and having energy there, and just really cheering your teammates on, whether it be a big play, a first down, explosive run, pass down the field, just anything like that can really give us some juice. Take advantage of it, look after your teammates, and really just support them in everything that they do. So that's been a point of emphasis for me, as far as during scrimmages, making sure the sideline is clapping it up or, getting hyped, stuff like that. And that goes into practice as well. During whatever period it is, making sure that everybody's got enthusiasm and everybody's coming out there with a little bit of juice. And you can tell it helps out, whether something goes right, something goes wrong. We kind of like to stay at an even keel with the enthusiasm. And you can tell it definitely helps. So that's definitely been a point of emphasis and one that I'm looking to continue to establish.
Dick Cox?
Luke, you already look a whole lot bigger and stronger than last year, though. But going into season 2, what part of your game would you like to improve the most in? And my second part of the question is, who is your accountability partner, and what's something interesting you've learned from them?
So getting bigger and stronger, that's a testament to Coach Day and his staff. They've been awesome in everything that they've done, whether it be the workouts on our off days or even just the post-practice lift when, we go in there, get a quick pump in and then do some shoulder care or arm care. That's been awesome on their part, and they've done a really good job. So like I said, that's a testament to them. Something that I definitely need to get better at and, continue to improve on is my feet. Just making sure I have a good base and a good base to throw off of. And, that'll improve my accuracy, in the short game and, even throwing the deep ball. So that's something that Coach Satterfield's definitely put an emphasis on me. And, every single day he challenges me and, whether we're doing drills in practice or, whether it be a team period, he's always, in my ear getting at, just continuing to push me and challenge me. And, because I know that he wants the best for me, and I definitely want to continue to get better at it. So that's been something that I've definitely put a focus on during this whole spring ball, is just making sure my feet are set and making sure that I've got a good base. So and my accountability partner is O'Donnell Fortune. We've been going at it since this whole thing started. I can't remember how many weeks back, but we made a lot of progress. Both of us are kind of in the same position, just trying to keep weight on. We're both always just running around and getting after it. So that's been something that we've been able to, connect over, is just eating, really, just making sure that both of us are staying with the snack in our hand, or coming back here and making pasta or something like that, just to make sure that both of us are keeping each other accountable and holding each other to a high standard.
Colin Taylor?
Luke, where would you say you are in terms of grasping this offense and comfortability operating it?
I'm definitely pretty comfortable with it. It's crazy how much a year will make, the difference a year will make as far as, your understanding of concepts, your understanding of where the defense is going and how they're playing. And I definitely think I've obviously got a lot more to learn. But I definitely feel like I'm in a good spot. Everything's just starting to click. And you can tell, I know I can tell whenever I get out there that, seeing the defense and just kind of see how they're playing things and the way that things open up. It's definitely starting to click and things are starting to slow down, like I said. And, I can't wait to, continue to get better at it, continue to see things as they open up and just, continue to elevate my game.
And a lot of guys mentioned things slowing down between year 1 and year 2. What does that look like? What does that feel like when you're out there on the field?
Yeah, I think that's just, at least, from the quarterback position, that's kind of just, taking your 3-step drop, your 5-step drop, and just seeing the way that the defense opens up and just seeing the windows that, you may not have seen a year ago, like I said, and that just comes with putting your eyes in the right place and, just having a better understanding of the overall concept, not just, what the play is, what the routes are, but just understanding the concept and understand what, we're trying to get done as an offense. And I think that's where, before spring ball during the winter months, that I, put an emphasis on is, just understanding the general concepts and, the idea of what we want to get out of each play, whether it be first down, second down, what's the situation on third down? Was it, third and short, third and long? Just little things like that where, Like I said, you're understanding what the situation is and what the concept is, and that's definitely helped me a lot.
Hale.
Luke, with Nick and EJ and Jaheim Kevion, it seems like that tight end group has a pretty diverse skill set. How exciting is it just thinking what they could do as a group within the offense this fall?
I mean, it's definitely exciting, and you can tell whenever we're out there at practice. The offense puts a big emphasis on the tight end, and just putting them in good positions to go make plays. And like you said, with Nick, EJ, Jaheim, Kevion, Trey Keeney, all those guys in that room, they've come a long way, and they're only going to get better, and that's the scary thing. They've all had a lot of success, over the past couple weeks of spring ball, and like I said, you can tell they're getting better each and every single day, and it's been fun to have those guys out there just making plays for us, and they're surely going to be doing a lot of it this coming season, so it's going to be exciting.
Greg Hadley.
Hey, Luke, I was just curious. You've been around Coach Satterfield now for a couple months. What have you learned about him as a coach and also as a man?
Coach Satt's, he reminds me a lot of my old OC back in high school, and that was a guy that I had a great relationship with, and I think Coach Satt and me had definitely built a really good relationship over the past couple months. Just being able to go into his office and sit down, talk ball, talk about life, just little things like that you can connect with him. And I think that's a big testament to him. It's not all about ball, but it's about building a relationship with his players, and he does a really good job of that. Whether it be guys coming in and into the offensive staff meeting whenever we watch film and stuff. He's constantly inviting guys in to join the group, and just to be in there and have conversations with them and just things like that. You see him around the building. He's always saying, what's up to everybody. It's never, he's never inclusive about, who he talks to, who he doesn't talk to. He's definitely a football guy. And, I'm sure a lot of guys will say the same thing. And that's something he takes a lot of pride in. He's a competitor. Every single day out there at practice, like I said, he challenges all of us, not just me, but everybody in the quarterback room, everybody on offense. He challenges us every single day to get better. And I definitely think that's rubbing off. You can see guys are eager to get out there and compete. Whether it be in a one-on-one period, whether it be in a team period, or really just individual. He challenges us every single day to go out there and find just something to get better at each and every single day. And like I said, I think that's a testament to him and just the kind of person that he is. And he's been awesome, man. And I can't wait to continue this journey with him.
Mike Cuba.
Luke, on the outside looking in, I know there's some people that look at the wide receiver position as, I don't want to say necessarily a weakness, but an area where there's question marks. As someone that has seen that group this spring develop, what would you tell those people, number one, and number two, who has really kind of stepped up this spring in particular from that group?
I honestly, I don't think there was ever a question of whether or not those guys were talented. They've always been talented, and just seeing them and the way that they've gotten better each and every single day. It's been awesome, and it's been pretty cool to be on the same side of that. Just being in practice with them and just seeing the way that they're how eager they are to just improve their craft and what they do on a day-to-day basis. And Coach Stepp does a great job of that as well. Pushing those guys just like Coach Satt does with us, the quarterbacks. So that's been really cool to see. Those guys are some of the most talented guys on the team that are going to be making a lot of plays for us. So, one of the guys that stands out the most is DeCarrion Joyner. Man, he's been awesome this spring. You can definitely tell that, like I said earlier, he understands what we're doing as an offense, what we want to get done. He understands the concepts and everything. So, we're able to put him in a lot of good positions and, positions for him to go make plays. Another guy is Josh Van, man. He's been getting after it every single day, and really just coming along even as a leader. I mean, he's really starting to step into that role in the wide receiver room. Taking steps as a leader and putting himself out there. Whenever we're in practice, going and making plays, and just making big things happen. So that's been pretty cool to see. Jalen Brooks, man, I can't say enough, good about him. He comes to work every single day, puts his head down and just gets after it, man. He goes and makes plays. He had one heck of a catch on Saturday that got us out of a tough situation, and man, it's been pretty cool to just be able to get those guys in space, get the ball to those guys and just watch them go make plays. And man, it's been pretty awesome to see. And even guys in my class, Jakari Caldwell, Rico Powers, just guys that have really taken a step forward from where they were last year. Peyton Mangrum is a guy that stood out, since the beginning of spring ball, man, just getting out there every single day and going and making plays, man. And that's really what it's all about. And like I said, all those guys in there are just, guys that come to work every single day, ready to get after it, ready to go make plays. And, they know what they're doing. So it's going to be a lot of fun going to war with them this coming fall.
Mitch Brown.
Sorry about that, Luke, trying to get this mute button working. Obviously, if I missed this earlier, sorry. What is it going to be like? 15,000 fans in there on Saturday, spring game. Your first chance to have a South Carolina football spring game. What's that opportunity like? And is this an experience you've always looked forward to?
I mean, I like I said, I think what it all comes down to is what I said earlier, just being able to get out in front of the home crowd, for the first time since I guess November, December. And man, it's that feeling that, when you're in that stadium, when you're in Williams-Brice, it's unlike anything else. And I think everybody's really eager to get out there and really just put on display what we've been working at, since January 1st, since we got back here. We're all ready to go out there and, continue to compete, continue to improve as a team, offense and defense, special teams included. That's something that everybody's really eager to do. And really, like I said, just kind of put on display what we've been working at and, just continuing to improve and, give the home crowd a good show. So it's going to be exciting.
Phil Kornblut.
Hey, Luke, the Saturday spring game, do you feel like the offense needs to go out and kind of put on a show? Because Gamecock fans are starving for some offense. They want to see some points, I would imagine. So, I mean, as the quarterback, do you want to go out and not necessarily embarrass your defense, but, put up 35, 40, 50 points? What do you want to do offensively?
We just want to play our game, man. That's really what it comes down to. It's just going out there, knowing our responsibilities and just knowing what to do. And that includes all 11 guys on offense. If everyone does their job, we can move the ball. We can pretty much do whatever we want to do. And our defense has been solid all spring, and they've given us, great looks each and every single day. And they've definitely made us better, and we've made them better, with pushing the ball down the field, having explosive runs, just things like that, I know we're going to be able to do on Saturday and definitely going to be able to do on Saturdays in the fall. So that's something that, we're looking to do. And, it's like I said, it's going to be exciting. So I can't wait to get out there.
David Conier.
Luke, if you do end up being the starting quarterback, there's a lot that comes with it, not just performance. I mean, everybody's going to love you when the team's playing well and you're winning, but when it doesn't go so well, you're going to get that. Have you thought about that? Do you have to prepare a little extra for what you're going to get once the season starts and maybe there's a bad game or two?
No, I think that just, all that stuff is just noise. That's all outside of what's in this building. That's all outside of what we do on the practice field and, what we do in Williams-Brice. So I don't think that's anything that, us as players need to prepare for. The thing that, that we have control over is going out there and doing our job. And that's something that Coach Beamer Coach Satt, Coach Adkins, everybody on this staff, just, they continuously preach, do your job. And that, like I said, that's really what it comes down to. If we do our job, we do it well, we're going to have a lot of success. But obviously there's going to be ups and downs throughout the season. And I think that just comes with tuning out all the noise, all the people talking about, we might not be this, we might not be that, or, we are this, we are that. We know who we are at the end of the day, as a team, as an offense, as a defense. And we know that, the people in this building and our coaches have, our best interests, and everybody's got each other's back. So as long as we believe in that, as long as we know that, I think all that other stuff is, it just gets put to the side and it just gets tuned out. Just keeping everything internal and having each other's back is what's going to make us stronger, and what's going to help us have success.
Ben Portnoy.
Luke, I know the offense changes and all, but when you do bring back the bulk of an offensive line and a group that has played together and you've got some of that cohesion, I mean, how much does that help you as a quarterback just kind of get through your progressions and maybe get downfield a little bit more and kind of push the things downfield maybe a little more?
They've and man, I can't give enough credit to those guys, man. They come to work every single day, and really just do one hell of a job of protecting us as quarterbacks, giving us great holes to run in, and they do a great job in protection, allowing us to push the ball down the field, allowing us to throw the ball, to the sideline, out in the flats, just stuff like that. It's the little things, and they do all those things really well. And it's definitely been a lot of fun to just be behind them, and I know that they've got our back, and we don't have anything without them. We don't have an offense without them. So that's been a lot of fun to just kind of hang around those guys and be in the film room with them and just kind of see how they learn, how they teach things. And it's definitely helped me as a quarterback kind of understand what they're looking at, where they're working to, as far as protections and stuff like that, how to get different kind of looks protected, and they've done a great job in helping me out with that, and it's definitely been a lot of fun to come alongside them and really just continue to work with them every single day.
Dick Cox.
Luke, Coach Beamer has admitted that he's kind of quick with the whistle to blow a play dead. Being the elusive quarterback you are that can continue a play, how hard is it to hear the whistle blown when maybe you could have made the play and gone on, or are you happy for him to blow the whistle?
We always come in from practice or come in from scrimmage and we'll talk a little smack to the defense, like we probably could have got out of this one. That definitely wouldn't have been a sack. Just little things like that. But I mean, I give the defense credit. They definitely put us in some tight spots. But I do think that quick whistle comes into play a little bit. Definitely think that we'll be able to get out of some of those situations and make a play. Scrambling or getting up and running, just things like that you don't necessarily get to do in spring ball because it is a quick whistle and defense can't touch you. But I definitely think that'll change once we get into a live situation, and it kind of opens up a little bit more. But it's been a lot of fun going up against those guys. Like I said, they've made us better. And they're going to continue to make us better throughout this next part of the off season and into the summer. But it's going to be a different story once the live whistle comes.
I'll take two more, David, then Hale.
Luca, you took over at halftime of the Missouri game last year. What do you remember about that first series? Were your nerves high? Were your hands shaking? Just take me through, what that was like getting out there for the first time and knowing you were the guy.
Yeah, it was. Didn't really have time to think about much. Didn't really have time for the nerves to set in. Coach Bobo came up to me at halftime whenever we were warming up and just said, hey, you're going to be starting this half. And honestly, it didn't really occur to me, what was really going on until Colin Hill came up to me and put his arm around me and just said, play your game, go out there and get after it, and just do your thing. And then ran out onto the field for the first time, and that's kind of when it started to hit, just like, man, this is real. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is something I've always dreamed of. And like I said, it's a feeling like nothing else, in that stadium with those fans. Just, it gives me chills just thinking about it. But it was definitely something that, like I said, I didn't have time to really think about. Just really just focused on going out there and doing what I could to make a difference. And that's something that I'm going to continue to bring each and every single Saturday this fall. Just going out there, doing my job, believing in the guys around me, and just putting everybody in good positions and going and making plays.
Last question goes to Hale.
With Marshawn being pretty close to being ready to return, what's it like with him? How excited is he? What are you seeing from him, and kind of what's in store?
Man, he's fired up. I can tell you that much. And just seeing the way that he has just seeing how far he's come since that injury first happened. And I was in the training room this morning getting taped, and he was already in there halfway done with his rehab. And you can see him whenever he's working out, whenever he's doing his rehab, and even the periods that he gets to do in practice. It's you can definitely tell that there's a fire inside of him, and that's definitely not going out anytime soon. He's eager to get back. He's eager to put those pads back on and really just start getting back after it with us. And I know we're definitely excited to get him back. He did a freaking backflip the other day whenever we were warming up in the indoor, and I think that was probably the most excited I've gotten in a while, just to see him do that, and just how fired up he was to do that. I think that was definitely a step forward for him. And you can see him just in the way that he does everything, the confidence that he's getting, the confidence that's coming back, and just his intent in every single thing he does. You can definitely tell he's ready to get back out there, and we're definitely ready to have him back. So